Remember when a leprechaun went on a murder spree?
It's not nice to steal gold coins from a leprechaun.
Let's go back.
Tamagotchi,
Of Y2K.
Happy Spooktober, everyone, and what is Spooktober without a little, pun intended, slasher film? Somehow, having seen at least one entry in most of the major slasher film franchises, I missed the Leprechaun series. I've always known of them, but I've never sat down to watch them. I know three things about these movies. One is that it features one of Jennifer Aniston's first acting roles, 2, it stars Warwick Davis, and 3, that it's about a murderous leprechaun, maybe? I'm a bit hazy on the plot of these films, which is a good thing because I want to go into them blind. I'm not going to do a single piece of research on these films until I've watched all 6 films, just so I can give you my initial reactions. And before you start saying, Michael, there are 8 Leprechaun films in the franchise, I just have to say, shut up! Those last 2 films don't feature Warwick Davis, so I'm not counting them. So without further ado, let's go back to 1992 and watch the first Leprechaun film, appropriately titled Leprechaun. Take a drink every time I say Leprechaun. Okay, so I just got finished watching Leprechaun, and I can say without a doubt, out of all the films I've ever watched, that was definitely one of them. I'm not gonna lie, I'm sorta regretting doing this as I have 5 more to go, but let me recap the first film. The movie starts with a drunk Irish guy. Hashtag not all Irish. He arrives home in a limo and his wife is all like, "We're broke, what are you doing?" He reveals he found a pot of gold, so they're rich now. But uh-oh, it's a leprechaun's gold and he totally kills the wife, and then the husband starts using a 4-leaf clover as if it's a crucifix to a vampire. The old guy puts him in a box, nails it shut, and leaves the 4-leaf clover on the top so he can't get out, and just before he burns down the place, he has a heart attack. 10 years later, Jennifer Aniston and her dad show up to the same house, but she hates it because she's your stereotypical California brat. She runs into not Kevin Bacon here. That's mean of me to say. This guy's a working actor, and to be called not Kevin Bacon is just rude. So I'm gonna start calling him Kevin Sausage instead. So Kevin Sausage here, along with his little brother and a guy named Ozzy, are painting their house. Aniston and Sausage inspect the crate that has the leprechaun in it, but leave after hearing a loud bang outside. But uh-oh, they knock the 4-leaf clover off, and he has an encounter with Ozzy. But no one believes old Ozzy because he's just a big dum-dum. Outside, there's a rainbow in the sky, and the kid and Ozzy follow it to discover gold. And Ozzy accidentally swallows one. Silly Ozzy. Also, this is an important plot point, so don't forget this. The kid knows exactly what he wants to do with the money from the gold.
See, we can go to the hospital and have them operate and fix your brain.
I don't think that's how it works, kid. This movie's got some Of Mice and Men vibes going for it. Jennifer Aniston starts getting her leg caressed by the leprechaun under the car before he scratches her.
Okay, I know what it feels like when a man caresses my leg.
You do?
Then the father hears a cat and does the one thing you're not supposed to do in horror films, or just in general. He sticks his hand in a hole and whoops, he gets bit and they rush him to the hospital. 3 guys who paint. Great company name, straight to the point. I like it. Then the leprechaun comes out on a tricycle and I love it. Now it's time for the best kill in the film. The kid and Ozzy take the gold coin to be appraised and the shopkeeper keeps it overnight to study it. But the leprechaun shows up, and how does he kill the shopkeeper, you might ask? He pogos him to death. I'd love to see Sherlock solve this one. The leprechaun steals a toy car and has a run-in with a cop. It's really nice of him to abide by the laws of the road and pull over. Anyway, he kills the cop after playing some peekaboo in the woods with him. The leprechaun goes through the house looking for his gold and stops to eat some Lucky Charms. The Scooby Gang comes home to find the house in shambles.
Well, it could have been a bear.
Alright, Kevin Sausage, you may want to stick to painting if you think a bear did all of this. Then the kid has an idea of how to kill the leprechaun.
Give me a 357 Magnum, press it to the little green critter's temple, and blam!
Those damn violent video games. When they hear a bell coming from outside, Kevin Sausage goes outside with his shotgun, steps in a bear trap, but is able to shoot the leprechaun. Then he shoots a nearby bush for good measure. He probably recently saw the happening. They try to escape in the truck, but the truck won't start. Classic. The leprechaun jumps through the windshield and pulls a Mike Tyson on poor Ozzy. Then he gets in his little car that he somehow souped up and knocks over the pickup truck. Kevin gives Jennifer his shotgun because he can't walk after stepping in the bear trap. You may even say that he's a little footloose. Alright, let's wrap this up. Jennifer Aniston finds out to kill leprechauns you need a 4-leaf clover after talking to a dangling old man McCready, who apparently didn't die of a heart attack in the beginning of the film and it was just a stroke. Oh shit, I nearly forgot, before we go any further, the leprechaun jumps out of a cabinet and grabs Kevin's dick. Whew, Can't believe I nearly went through this whole recap without mentioning that. Anyway, back to where I was. They managed to find a 4-leaf clover. The kid wraps it in gum and slingshots it into the leprechaun's mouth, with a one-liner that would make Arnold Schwarzenegger proud.
Fuck you, Lucky Charms.
He falls into the well and they pour gasoline and light it on fire. Somehow that results in this explosion. Because we all know how combustible water and gasoline is. The end. This movie had its moments, but it was bad. And not even so bad that it's funny. I think I checked how much time was left in the film about 3 times. There wasn't any bad acting though. Everyone in the film seems to have taken it very seriously. And for that I give them props. I'm gonna give this film 1.5 gingers out of 5. The next movie in the franchise has the fitting title of Leprechaun 2. I'm gonna go watch it now. I'll be back soon. Okay, so I just finished watching Leprechaun 2, and we're gonna forget about it and move right on to Leprechaun 3. Okay, I'm just kidding, let me get into Leprechaun 2. The movie fittingly opens in Ireland 1,000 years ago, and it's St. Patrick's Day, which is also the leprechaun's birthday, which also means he can claim himself a bride. If you ever watch these movies and question why, the answer will always be just because. Anyway, the leprechaun has a slave, and he says if he helps him find a wife, he'll let him be free. Well, of course the leprechaun wants the man's daughter. He messes it up and says he'll be back for her in another 1,000 years. Boom, fast forward 1,000 years to Los Angeles. No explanation how he got out of the well from the first film, but oh well. Clint Howard's in this film even though it wasn't directed by his brother. He just sort of makes a cameo and doesn't play a major role in the film. This kid Cody is sort of a scam artist who sells tickets to those Hollywood murder tours. His girlfriend's ready to go to some party and wouldn't you know it, it's the girl from 1,000 years ago. I guess she was just sort of reincarnated over and over again. Anyway, his boss, who we'll later find out is actually the kid's legal guardian after his parents died, is way too drunk to drive. So Cody decides to do the tour himself with his girlfriend Bridget, who is pretty upset that he ruined their night. Then they get to this place where this douche totally tries to steal Bridget from Cody, and he even puts his arm over her, and she doesn't say a thing. Stay away from that kind of girl, Cody. Anyway, the leprechaun's now in LA having come out of his little tree hidey hole. And he goes ahead and rips off this agent's finger on the street just to get his gold ring. Back to douche here, he's trying to woo Bridget and come inside her house for a little tonsil hockey. But she says no, but he doesn't take no for an answer and he gets all Danny Masterson on her before she punches him in the stomach. In the garage is a fake Bridget that the leprechaun has conjured and douche boy falls for it.
Maybe I can make it up too.
That's a start.
This guy's a really bad actor and he kinda reminds me of Mark Wahlberg, just without all the hate crimes. Bridget's imaginary boobs come out because in a slasher film, boobs was the only thing missing from the first Leprechaun movie. Turns out they're not boobs, it was actually a lawnmower blades and Marky Mark puts his face right in there. Honestly, pretty cool kill. Cody shows up to Bridget's house to apologize with flowers and apparently Bridget will be the leprechaun's wife if she sneezes 3 times, which she does. The leprechaun kidnaps Bridget and takes her back to his lair after putting a gold collar around her neck, and then he starts to get a little rapey.
You should be able to bear a full litter.
This movie feels like it was sponsored by Roofies. But poor Leppy here can't consummate the marriage without the missing gold coin that Cody happens to have after it rolled into his hand back at the house. He tells Morty here about the leprechaun, but doesn't believe him until of course he pops up and causes a ruckus. Morty says that leprechaun's weakness are wrought iron, so we're just gonna forget all the rules that we put in the first film. Now this scene really has nothing to do with the main plot, but I couldn't skip over it. Terry Cox is in this film, and while they're at the bar, he comes in dressed as a leprechaun since it's St. Patrick's Day and gives Cody a chocolate gold coin. And after Cody leaves, he looks into the urinal he was using for some reason. Anyway, while at the bar, Morty challenges the leprechaun to a drinking contest, and the leprechaun gets plastered, and he can't drink and magic at the same time, so he runs away. We then see Michael McDonald, who's working as a barista as the leprechaun tries to get sober.
I prefer cash, but maybe you're a little short.
I'm starting to realize that I would probably be the Michael McDonald character in this film. The leprechaun kills him by using the steam from the cappuccino maker. Again, another pretty cool kill in comparison to the first film. Cody and Morty go to get the wrought iron safe so they can trap the leprechaun inside, but they get caught by security and we get this exchange, which is one of my favorite lines from the film.
We've got 60 hours of combat training.
Should have had 65.
So they trick the leprechaun into getting into the vault, but Morty locks Cody in a room because he wants the leprechaun's gold and asks for 3 wishes. because I guess he's a genie now too. Anyway, Morty fucks around and finds out, and it ends with him dead on the floor and the leprechaun escaping. Oh, I should also mention that the coin Cody has apparently makes him invincible to the leprechaun, so he can't be killed as long as he has it. Which again, that guy in the first film swallowed one of his coins and the leprechaun did quite a number on him. Cody goes to the leprechaun's little treehouse and a skeleton from Party City attacks him. Long story short, Cody tricks the leprechaun and stabs him with the wrought iron and the leprechaun explodes. Surely he's gone for good now. By the way, this film ends so abruptly. Cody tosses the coin away and then it just cuts to credits. This is how I wish the movie had ended.
I love you, Cody.
And that, kids, is how I met your mother.
My final thoughts on this one are that the acting was much worse than the first one. However, the kills were much cooler, and isn't that one of the reasons we even watched this genre of film? I think because of that I'm going to boost it a bit above the first one and give it 2 out of 5 gingers. On to Leprechaun 3, which apparently came out the very next year in 1995. They were really pounding these out back then, huh? Okay, this is going to take a lot of unpacking on my part. I'm not sure who edited this movie, but it jumps all over the place. Let me try and sum it up. In Leprechaun 3, the leprechaun goes to Las Vegas. The film opens in a pawn shop where a guy brings in a statue of the leprechaun with a red medallion around its neck. He tells the shopkeeper to never touch that medallion. Spoiler, he does. The leprechaun comes to life, but the medallion seems to be reflecting any of his attacks. Then on the strip, this guy Scott is on his way to college in California, but he decides to check out Vegas first, where he meets Tammy, who's stranded on the side of the road. She explains that she works at the Lucky Shamrock as a magician's assistant and needs a ride to work, which Scott does because he's got the hots for Tammy. I'm not sure if she left her T-Rex at home or not, but we'll have to wait and see. Tammy agrees to sneak Scott into the casino she works at as long as he doesn't gamble, because he's just a baby and he's not 21 yet. Well, Scott breaks his promise and takes his $23,000 tuition check that his parents gave him and cashes it in to play some roulette. But silly Scott, this casino's rigged, so he loses all his money and has to pawn his gold watch. When he arrives at the pawn shop, he sees that the shop owner's dead, and instead of calling 911, he calls the operator because we all know one number is quicker than 3. Scott finds one of the leprechaun's gold coins, and apparently in this film, if you hold the coin and make a wish, it comes true. So while he's holding the coin, he says this:
I wish I was back at the casino on a winning streak.
Now that he's back at the casino, he's winning like crazy because the coin is guiding him where to bet his money. Even the device that's used to rig the game breaks. Side note, this is the scummy casino owner and he's in debt to these guys. And this is the great Fazio, who isn't so great. In fact, he's a shit magician and a complete tool. Oh, and this is the dealer, who's just as corrupt and scummy as the rest of them. Now you know all the main players in the film, I saved you an entire half an hour. Because Scott keeps winning, the owner gives him a key to stay at the hotel and hopes that he'll stay and play some more. He runs into Tammy and she's pissed because she told him not to gamble, then says to go upstairs to his room and don't let anyone in because she works there and she knows how scummy everyone is. The leprechaun shows up to Lucky Shamrock Casino and runs into Elvis, and honestly gives me the best scene in the film.
Hey man, see you on the flip side.
Without having seen it, I can almost guarantee that was in the movie trailer. The dealer and the magician conspire to steal Scott's money and gold coin, while Leppy plays some craps. The two loan sharks get sassy with him and he makes one of the guys throw up coins like he's a slot machine. Anyway, the magician sneaks into Scott's room and takes his gold coin and runs away. Then the leprechaun comes in with room service and they get into it. The leprechaun bites Scott and then Scott tosses him out the window, and you won't believe what happens next. Scott starts turning into a leprechaun himself, as if he was bit by a werewolf, or a were-leprechaun. Back to the gold coin, the dealer says it has magical powers, but the great douchebag here doesn't believe her and says to sell it so they'll split the money 50-50. But uh-oh, the owner gets a hold of it and accidentally wishes he could have Tammy, and suddenly Tammy's all hot for the owner.
Oh, you're turning me on.
Before anything can happen though, the dealer sneaks in and steals the gold coin and wishes to be hot again, and Tammy snaps out of it and is obviously upset thinking the owner drugged her or something, so she hits him in the nuts. Meanwhile, Scott here is going through his change and is eating a bunch of potatoes because we all know leprechauns love potatoes, and he starts talking in rhymes with an Irish accent. Back at the casino, the leprechaun sneaks into the owner's room and makes the woman on TV speak to the owner and seduce him while he pretends to be a lawyer and a psychic on television. Honestly, great bit, it genuinely made me laugh. Anyway, the girl comes out of the TV and then turns into a robot and electrocutes the owner. Makes me wonder what type of drugs the writers are on. So the loan sharks show up and Leppy kicks their asses with a shillelagh. Tammy and Scott see this and run. Scott has sideburns now. Now that the dealer is all sexy, the magician believes her and steals the gold coin. He wishes that he could be the greatest magician in the world, which is impossible as long as God Bluth is still around. The leprechaun runs into the dealer and gives her a death by Kardashian, and by that I mean he blows up her lips, boobs, and ass so big that she dies. Scott and Tammy find out the way to kill the leprechaun and break the curse to destroy the gold. Damn, this leprechaun has a lot of weaknesses. So far we have 4-leaf clovers, wrought iron, destroying his gold, and high shelves. Oh, I almost forgot. At one point, Scott's taken to the hospital and the most realistic scene in the film takes place.
This may mean the difference between living and dying. Do you have health insurance?
The best kill in the film is when the leprechaun straps the Great Fazio into a box and saws him in half with a chainsaw. Scott takes a flamethrower to the gold and the leprechaun turns into a nice crisp, and surely that will be the last we see of him. Then this film has the gall to end with a line from Casablanca.
This could be the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
I actually left a lot out because this film was bonkers. I didn't even mention when the leprechaun dresses as a doctor, which is just adorable. By the way, I paused the movie at one point to get a drink and I came back to this on my screen, and I started to question what I was doing with my life. With that being said, my final thoughts are that the editing is very dizzying, and why does the leprechaun only speak in rhymes now? He did in the first 2 films, but only a couple times. In this one, it's basically every line of dialogue he gives. However, this was definitely the best one I watched so far. It was batshit crazy, and that's what I expected out of these films. Don't get me wrong, it was bad, but on the brink of so bad it's good. I'm gonna give it 2.5 gingers out of 5.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we've been to California, and then we've been to California again, and then we went to Las Vegas. That means there's only one place left to go. Space. That's right, Leprechaun 4 is called Leprechaun 4 in Space. And if it doesn't have a sexy robot woman like Jason X, I'm gonna be quite disappointed. Okay, so I'm incredibly disappointed, and not because there isn't a sexy cyborg in this film. This was absolute trash. I haven't even seen the final 2 films yet, but this has to be the worst one in the franchise, right? Let's get into it. We meet our ragtag crew of space marines on some spaceship, and oh shit, it's Heidi from Home Improvement. The captain has this half-metal skull thing? I don't know. They're on a mission to kill some sort of alien, and then this doctor girl comes up and says she's coming, but Metalhead isn't a fan of that. Then the guy in charge appears on a TV screen and says she's indeed going on the trip. I didn't bother learning any of their names for this one because none of them have any discernible personalities. Now we're in a cave and this leprechaun has this space chick chained up. He's also in a little tux and speaks fancy now, and no longer speaks in rhymes. Apparently she's a princess and he offers her riches and she seems to be into it. The soldiers show up to the space cave and one gets greedy and tries to steal the leprechaun's gold, and we all know that's a big no-no. Anyway, Leppy has himself a lightsaber now and kills him. Then he jumps on a grenade to save his future bride. This dude pisses on his corpse and he gets zapped by it, which is actually important for later on. The Space Marines bring the princess onto the ship and they celebrate by dancing, and it reminded me of that scene from Team America. Heidi and the soldier guy go to the waste disposal to get jiggy with it, but his penis starts to hurt and his fly opens and a leprechaun bursts out of his dick. Oh, and the leprechaun can fly now apparently. After making that guy's dick explode, he turns to take on Heidi.
Hold it right there, Pilgrim.
But she gets away. Soldier Boy here, who I'm gonna start calling Stallone from here on out for obvious reasons, starts hitting on Doctor Girl, but fails miserably because she's like totally super smart and he's like totally not. Then this creepy scientist guy starts going all Tarantino on the knocked out princess and starts kissing her feet.
You are a naughty, naughty boy.
Turns out Dr. Evil over here wants her blood because it has healing properties. Heidi tells everyone the leprechaun's still alive and they go out searching for him. First in the bacteria chamber. Stallone and Soldier Guy number 2 go in with hazmat suits, but the leprechaun's already in there, so he cuts open Soldier Guy number 2's suit, and he turns into another skeleton from Party City. The Space Marines want to hand over the princess to Leppy because they're done with this bullshit, but then the boss guy comes out from the chamber and he's like 75% Dalek. He offers to pay them 100 times their original pay and 3% shares if they kill the leprechaun, and they're all for it. Turns out he wants the princess's blood to heal his body, and Heidi questions whether or not it was her fault that her lover boy got killed.
I'm the one that gave him the boner.
When it's my time to go, I hope I'm standing tall just like he was.
Then the long-lost Baldwin brother goes off alone, which we all know is a super smart thing to do in these films. Anyway, the leprechaun crushes him with a crate. Then he tosses Heidi off the side of a bridge, killing her. The leprechaun tricks the creepy scientist guy into opening the doors by pretending to be the naked doctor, and then he flattens his face like a Looney Tunes character. The Leprechaun and the now awake princess take Dr. Evil's healing serum and add a scorpion and a spider to it, and then inject them. The Space Marines that are left confront the Leprechaun and the princess, and she shows her boobs to them because why not? And then the Leprechaun takes control of Captain Metalhead. Let's play a little game of what happens next. Does the Leprechaun A. kill the Doctor Girl, B. escape the ship with the princess, or C. dress up the captain in drag so he can fight the other Space Marines? Let's find out. While they're fighting the captain, the Leprechaun goes to the cargo hold to get his gold, and Dr. Evil wakes up as some sort of human-scorpion-spider hybrid. The Leprechaun sets the ship to explode in 20 minutes, and the Marines finally defeat the captain and are quite surprised to learn he's a cyborg. The metalhead didn't seem to give it away, apparently. Soldier Guy number 3 runs off to try and stop the ship from blowing up, and Stallone and Dr. Girl go and fight. We have another shootout in the cargo bay, and oh snap, there's a shrinking ray, but it's in reverse, and the Leprechaun becomes huge in more than one way.
Alright! Big is good!
Oh god, let's wrap this up. I want to put this in the rear view mirror. Anyway, Stallone saves the princess, the Leprechaun gets shot into space, the Doctor Girl kills Dr. Spider Scorpion, and Soldier Guy number 3 figures out the password to stop everything. It ends with the Leprechaun's hand flipping them off in space. The end. I can't explain how much I hated this movie. The entire thing was mostly people walking around corridors, dying, and then walking around some more corridors. I'm not even going to validate this movie with a ginger rating. In fact, I'm done with this video. I'm not going to watch any more of this franchise. There's no way I will. Leprechaun 5 in the Hood. Yep, you heard that right. Also, I'm pretty sure this one opens with them reusing the same opening footage from the first film. If I'm right, you'll be seeing it on screen now. If it isn't, then this will be cut, so why am I even still talking? We then see a groovy Ice-T breaking into the Leprechaun's lair, who is once again a statue because of the red medallion. Ice-T seems to have been specifically looking for this golden flute, and this guy does the dum-dum thing and takes the medallion off the statue and the Leprechaun comes to life, and then he kills him with his own afro pick. Then Leppy quotes MLK, just in case you didn't know that this was Leprechaun in the Hood.
Free at last! Free at last! Thank God Almighty! Free at last!
After Ice-T pulls a baseball bat out of his afro, the medallion ends up flying in the air and lands back on the Leprechaun, because you can't kill off Ice-T in the first few minutes. He's on the poster, this isn't Scream. Fast forward and Ice-T is now a famous gangster rapper, and we meet Postmaster P and his two friends.
It's Postmaster P because I deliver a positive message, man, that's all.
Groovy. Postmaster P and his two friends are trying to break into the music industry but are struggling, but Ice-T gives them a chance. However, he doesn't want them rapping about a positive message, he wants them to be rapping about guns and hoes. But Postmaster P stands his ground and they get kicked out. The three of them hatch a plan to break in and rob Ice-T later that night. When the three break in, Ice-T shows up and Postmaster P accidentally shoots him. He takes his golden flute and they also take the medallion off the statue, and Leppy's back and he's rhyming again.
Unhand me gold, you thieving hoods. You got more loot than Tiger Woods.
Luckily, a golden coin stopped the bullet and Ice-T is still alive, but he's pissed. He goes to some club and in the bathroom he runs into the Leprechaun and they share a joint and have a chat. The Leprechaun rips off his finger and tells him if he doesn't get his gold back, he'll kill him. At the pawn shop, which is kind of a staple for this franchise now, Postmaster P blows on the flute and suddenly everyone is entranced by it. But uh-oh, Leppy hears it too. The three guys decide to throw a party, and while they're talking on the roof about the morality of all this, Ice-T shows up and he wants his flute back. Instead of giving it to him, they jump off a roof and into a dumpster. They seek refuge at Fontaine's place. Who is Fontaine? How do they know Fontaine? It's never explained. Postmaster P blows into the flute again and they throw a concert on the roof, which seems irresponsible for three guys trying to hide. Either way, they're suddenly good rappers and everyone loves their music. The power of the flute. The Leprechaun shows up and kills Fontaine by, not kidding, banging them to death. The three boys MacGyver an electrocution device and escape the Leprechaun's wrath. They go to Postmaster P's grandma's house and he knows there's something up with that flute and he shows its effects to his friends, but he's still unsure. So then they seek refuge at a church and the Reverend says that they can stay as long as they take over for the cancelled music act that morning. However, they suck again and everyone begins to leave, but Postmaster P plays the flute and everyone comes back in and they're good again. Like genuinely, I probably wouldn't get away with playing the music in this video, but it's actually pretty good, trust me. They're actually so good that they summon Coolio, who's never mentioned or seen again in the film. Ice-T shows up, but behind him is the Leprechaun. Ice-T takes off to let the Leprechaun deal with them. The three guys and the Reverend pull the old safe trick from the second film, and it works again. You'd think he'd learn his lesson. They still plan on going to Vegas for the rap competition and ask the Reverend to keep an eye on the safe. But uh-oh, the Leprechaun conjures up some zombie fly girls, and they help him escape and kill the Reverend. After the guys have a successful audition, this record executive says they're going to Vegas, as if this is America's Got Talent or something. But uh-oh, Leppy's there with his zombie fly girls. He makes Postmaster P's friend point his gun at his other friend's head, and Postmaster agrees to give him the flute. But after he tries to hit the leprechaun, he has his friend turn the gun on his own head and shoots himself. Honestly, probably the darkest death in this entire franchise. It was pretty rough to watch. Apparently the leprechaun's a pimp now, and he's using his zombie fly girls to find him new hookers to bang to death. Seriously, that's a plot point in this. Postmaster P and his friend decide to come up with a plan to kill the leprechaun and mix a 4-leaf clover into a joint. How will they get into the leprechaun pimp's lair? They'll dress as women, obviously.
Damn, Post. You look good for real. Fuck you.
They get into his lair, and Leppy seems to be into Postmaster P. They trick him into smoking the joint and he passes out. They take the golden flute instead of finishing the job for some reason and run into Ice-T, who shoots and kills his other friend. Ice-T offers to work together to put the red medallion back on the leprechaun, but Postmaster P's had enough and shoots him a few times. Just as the leprechaun is going to kill Postmaster P, Ice-T is still alive and the medallion gets tossed into the air and it fades out. Now Postmaster P's a famous rapper, but uh-oh, with a thriller-esque ending, his eyes are green and he's now under the control of the leprechaun.
What a twist!
And of course at the end we get a sweet rap by the leprechaun, because how couldn't we? I don't know if it was because Leprechaun 4 was so bad, but I actually enjoyed this one. It felt like the writing was much better and there was some actual thought and effort put into this one. It still isn't a high quality film, but I think it's passable. I'm gonna give it 2.5 gingers out of 5. Alright, it's on to the last film in the Warwick Davis Leprechaun franchise. And they've run out of ideas because we're going back to the hood. The movie opens at the building site of a youth center with a priest fighting the leprechaun. He uses holy water that has a 4-leaf clover in it against him, and it seems to do the trick. The priest performs some sort of exorcism on the leprechaun and sends him back to his grave, and it seems to kill the priest as well. We jump 1 year later and the youth center was never built. First we meet Emily, and she works at a barber shop and is saving up for college. Then we see a gang messing with mother's milk from the boys. His name is Rory, and just when you think he's gonna leave peacefully, he comes back and hits one of them with his baseball bat. We'll also find out later he's Emily's ex-boyfriend. Then there's Emily's friend Lisa, and Jamie, who's the stoner/comedic relief of this film, and he keeps trying to put the moves on Lisa. There you go, I think that's all the main characters you need to worry about. Emily and Lisa go to a psychic because they're having some bad luck, and the psychic says she'll come into great fortune but must resist because it comes with nothing but trouble. And she's not talking about the Dan Aykroyd film. Jamie has a dog, and I swore if anything happened to this pup, I'd turn the movie off. Luckily, we never see him again, so he's nice and safe. Jamie goes and finds Rory because he said he sold him some weed with a 4-leaf clover in it. Turns out Rory's a drug dealer, and that's the reason Emily broke up with him, and he sells drugs to the whitest people imaginable.
I swear I sell more because of this. Chronic!
The two girls have a grill at the abandoned youth center, and Jamie shows up with Rory, which Emily's not too happy about. It seems like they were all friends in high school. Emily storms off but falls into an underground bunker type thing. It leads to a creepy tunnel, and Rory comes down to see if she's alright. Emily finds a little chest filled with gold. The 4 friends decide to sell the gold and split the money, but uh-oh, this also makes Leppy rise from his grave. The 4 of them start to live it up in their newfound fortune. Jamie throws a house party and the leprechaun shows up and rips a bong with this guy at the party. We don't need to know his name because he's immediately impaled by the bong after the leprechaun sees one of his gold coins. The leprechaun walks into the party stoned and has a little Scooby-Doo routine where he has the munchies and walks around Jamie without him ever noticing. It ends with him getting stuck in the fridge. They find the body, so they call the police, but the police decide the war on drugs is more important and arrest Jamie for having a bunch of weed. We then see that the local gang is upset because Rory's stealing their customers. The leprechaun goes to the barber shop looking for his gold, and apparently it's also somewhere you can get a massage because this woman's on a table, and Leppy gives her a nice massage before killing her. Then he attacks Emily, but she's able to get away when she sticks a razor in his eye. Leppy then makes his way to Lisa's house where he promptly kills her, which is unfortunate because she was my favorite. When the 3 find Lisa's body, Emily says they need to give the gold back, but when Rory opens the empty chest, it refills with gold. He empties it once more and it refills again, so he decides to take off with the chest. The leprechaun tries to kill Emily by jumping on her from a tree, but right before he can kill her, Rory comes back and pulls out the old baseball bat trick on Leppy. They get pulled over for speeding, and the same dickhead cops from earlier arrest him after finding the gold. Not sure why that's illegal, but okay. Luckily, Leppy shows up and messes the cops up. He even pulls one of their legs off, and he still tries to fight him Monty Python style. Emily shoots the leprechaun with a shotgun, and they're on the run again. Leppy takes the cop's leg and uses it to drive the police car because his little footsies don't reach the gas pedal. They go to get Jamie, but before they can leave, the gang shows up with guns. The Leprechaun shows up and they laugh at his size, but then he also messes them up, until he gets Regina George by Emily. They go back to the psychic to figure out how to defeat the Leprechaun and find out about the 4-leaf clover weakness. Jamie remembers he has one in his weed, and Rory chops it up and puts it on the tips of his bullets. The Leprechaun shows up and Rory shoots him a few times, but can't completely kill him because his gun jams. Classic horror trope. It turns out to be a good thing that they visited the psychic because she's apparently a witch and battles it out with the Leprechaun, but he gets the best of her. The end really drags out on this film. It was a lot of, oh good, the Leprechaun's dead. Oh wait, no he isn't, for a good chunk of time. It ends with Emily hanging over the edge of a building. Rory shoots him with the 4-leaf clover gun, and to finish him off, Emily hits him with his gold, and he falls into wet cement where he surely will be encased forever. Which is kinda weird because the youth center was abandoned for a year, so I'm not sure why there was wet cement, but whatever. And everyone lives happily ever after. Well, except everyone who died, I suppose. And their families. This one was actually okay. I preferred the last Hood one to this one, but yeah. Likeable main characters and unlikable side characters who got their comeuppance. It did drag a lot though, and it felt like they were trying to reach that 90-minute mark at the end. I've got to give it 2 out of 5 gingers. Well, there you have it. My brain kinda hurts after watching all these, but was it worth it though? Probably not. My final thoughts on the franchise is, it wasn't my thing. Maybe if I saw Leprechaun 3 or 5 on television I may stop for a few minutes, but I'd probably never rewatch them in full again. I'm going to try and say something nice about the franchise though at the end here, since I was probably 80% negative about these films throughout the video. I think on the positive side, Warwick Davis was great as the Leprechaun. He was fun to watch when he was on screen. Even with the terrible script of Leprechaun in Space, it seems he was trying his best to make something out of what he had. I think I just like the character of the Leprechaun more than I like the movies, if that makes sense. So huge props to Warwick Davis. If you're still here, thank you for sticking around, you're a trooper, and it makes me feel like I didn't just watch these 6 films for nothing. I know my uploads have been a bit sporadic recently, but I got a new job in June, so I've been trying to balance that. But for those of you who have stuck around, I'm not going anywhere and have a long list of video ideas I'm working on. So thank you for watching and everyone who's commented such kind words. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow. For everyone who likes this, may you find a 4-leaf clover to protect yourself from potential Leprechaun attacks. Happy Halloween, everyone.
Oh, that's good shit. Good shit.